Now, if you're missing logical reasoning questions on the LSAT, there's a good chance that a single question type is doing most of the damage and you don't even know it. It's flaw questions. And it is the most common question type on the entire exam, but people get it wrong all the time, confidently, and don't even realize it. And so I'm going to show you exactly how to fix that problem, even if you've been stuck with a low score for months, even if you read the argument, you feel sure, pick an answer, and still get it wrong anyway. I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005, and I've watched thousands of people do the same thing on flaw questions. So I'm going to tell you why they miss them and then give you the fix, because it's simpler than people make it sound. Now, logical reasoning is 2/3 of your LSAT score. Reading comp is the other third. So when people obsess over reading comp and treat logical reasoning as the easy part, they've got it backwards. Logical reasoning is where the points live. And inside logical reasoning, flaw questions show up more than almost anything else. If you fix flaw questions, you're moving the biggest lever on the biggest section. Now, here is how a flaw question works and where people fall off. The question stem will sound something like, the reasoning above is flawed because, or the argument is vulnerable to the criticism that. So your job is to find what is broken in the argument. What is broken in the logic. So here's what most people do. They read the argument, they decide whether they agree with the conclusion, and then they go looking in the choices for something that sounds smart. But agreeing or disagreeing with the conclusion has nothing to do with whether the argument is well built. A true conclusion can sit on top of terrible reasoning. And the LSAT loves handing you an argument whose conclusion feels reasonable, so your guard drops, and then they punish you for not noticing the logic underneath was broken. So I'll give you a real example just to make this more concrete. Quote, the city added a bike lane on Main Street last year. Since then, traffic accidents have dropped 30% on Main Street. So the bike lane made the street safer. Now, what did the argument actually prove? They said the bike lane went in, accidents dropped, then they concluded the bike lane caused the drop. But what else could have caused those accidents to drop? Maybe the city also lowered the speed limit that year. Maybe they added a stoplight. Maybe Main Street got torn up for construction and traffic just rerouted somewhere else, so there were fewer cars to crash in the first place. The argument never rules any of that out. It saw two things happen in sequence and assumed the first one caused the second. That is the flaw, and it's got a name, and you'll see it constantly. The argument confuses two things happening together for one of them causing the other. Just because one thing happened right before something else does not prove the first caused the second. Now, looking at an example like this, we're not finding the flaw by reading the choices. We know the flaw before we even look at them through pattern recognition. We read the argument, and then instead of asking, do I agree, I ask, what is the gap between evidence and conclusion? The evidence was accidents dropped. Conclusion was the bike lane did it. The gap is everything in between, every other thing that could have caused the drop. And so we predict based on our prior exposure to similar arguments. Before you look at the answers, you say in your own words what is missing between what they proved and what they concluded. You pre-phrase or predict the flaw. Then you go to the answers looking for the one that matches what you already spotted, instead of getting seduced or suggested by 5 choices that all look the same, that all sound clever. Because the LSAT will distract you with 4 wrong answers that are specifically built to sound right. One of them describes a flaw the argument doesn't actually have. One states something technically true about the world that has nothing to do with the logic. One is worded so abstractly it could have applied to any argument ever written. And if you walk into the answer choices without your own answer already in your head, you're going to get pulled towards whatever sounds smartest in the moment, and the LSAT knows how you think and knows how to pull you towards a tempting wrong answer. But in contrast, if you walk in already knowing the argument confused correlation with causation, those 4 wrong answers don't stand a chance, because you're just looking for one thing, your prediction, and everything that does not line up with your prediction is just noise. That is the core of proper approaches to LSAT logical reasoning in general. I use a framework called the Socratic review method with my students. Basically, when you get a flaw question wrong, or even when you get it right but you were shaky, you don't just check the answer and move on. You sit with it and you ask yourself a series of guiding questions until you can explain it to your coach out loud. What did the argument treat as proven that it never proved? What is the exact gap? Why is the trap answer a trap, specifically, not just it's wrong? If you can't explain why the wrong answer is wrong, you don't understand the question yet, and you'll miss a similar one next time. That right there is the difference between doing 3,000 questions and getting nowhere versus doing 300 and jumping up 10 points. It's not about volume. It's about whether you actually close the gap in your own understanding or you just move on to the next one, hoping it'll click eventually. So here's the whole thing, start to finish, next time you hit a flaw question. Read the argument and don't ask whether you agree with it. Just find the conclusion, find the evidence, name the gap between them in your own words before you look at a single answer choice. Then you find the answer that matches your gap. And when you review, you don't stop at right or wrong. You make yourself explain the flaw and the trap out loud until you own it. If you can do that, flaw questions go from being your worst answer type to the one you actually want to see on the test, because now they are predictable. The test reuses the same patterns over and over and over again, confusing correlation with causation, assuming what they're trying to prove, attacking the person instead of the argument, treating one example like it settles everything. Once you name the pattern, you can't unsee it. And what used to cost you points now wins you the most points. That's the LSAT right there. 2/3 of your score is logical reasoning, and a huge slice of that is this one question type, flaw questions, all based on this one habit. And if you want my help getting better at the LSAT, logical reasoning, or reading compo or anything else, I'm happy to help you out. I'm offering free LSAT tutoring for everybody watching this. You can book that free tutoring with me at unpluggedprep.com/start. Links below the video, pinned in the chat, in my bio on TikTok and IG.